Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Interact podcast. My name is Josh Haynam, co founder and CEO at Interact. Today, I'm joined by Tae Kim. Tae Kim is a financial educator, a YouTuber, the founder of Financial Tortoise, and his content is really cool. It's all about how to get rich slowly. That's my words, not yours. But that's my interpretation of it, and I really appreciate that. You also have some really cool quizzes that you've made. So we'll talk about those today. But first of all, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh.
So, if we want to just jump right in, tell us about the quizzes that you've made. I think that'll be a good starting off point for us, and then we can talk about other things. But what are the quizzes that you've made, and how have you used them as a YouTuber?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I have a YouTube channel called Financial Tortoise. So most of the content is focused around the general theme of building wealth slowly, but I'll deep dive into specific pain points that people have around um, investing, how to manage their investment, how to keep track of their finances. So, money itself is a very emotional topic. So then I create content around those specific pain points. The quizzes. So the quizzes that I created through you and your company through Interact Quiz is centered around those pain points as well. So one of the quizzes that I have is called like, what is your financial health? And when a lot of people kind of come to my channel, they, it's not, you're not in the mood to, you're not debating between, I want to watch, a show on Netflix and going to watch a deep dive video about personal finance, right? So you're at a certain mental state when you stumble upon one of my videos. It's because you're at a certain pain point. You're like, I have no idea. I know like, money is one of those things. It's kind of like working out. I need to be working out more, but then we just, we have a hard time doing it. So same thing with money. A lot of people know they need to uh, do better with money, either tracking their finances or looking at their investment account, see how they can optimize it. So that was one of those pain points that keep popping up. So I used the quiz kind of in a couple folds. One, to give a resource to people uh, that is a little bit more interactive than just, hey, I'm receiving information from this YouTube video versus they can take like, 5 to 7 question interactive quiz and then it funnels them into a specific outcome. So like, what is your financial health? You know, and then so I kind of walked them through like, oh, uh, how do you feel about money? Or like, do you have a means to track your investments? Do you know how many accounts you have? Or I have no idea. So that kind of funnels them towards like, okay, and then there's a guide that they receive at the end that kind of gives them, okay, like this is, you're doing really well, or there's areas to improve. And then I give them some tips on for your specific situation. If you're doing really well, these are the ways you can kind of optimize your finances. But then that's also lead generation for my email list. So based upon how they what quizzes they take, I currently have your product in Kit. That's the email marketing software that I use linked. So then as soon as they take a quiz, they get funneled into my email list with a certain tag. And then I have like a sequence that they follow. And then, it's a great lead generation from my end, but then at the same time, it serves the purpose of being, my audience a way to get more tailored resources as they watch my videos. And then so far, I've done several quizzes and they've all really performed really well. From engagement perspective, I've done, how's your financial health? How's your investment? One of a more popular one has been, what is your money superpower? I think that's an interesting topic. Likes to talk about the positives, instead of the negatives, saying, nobody wants to hear like you're doing bad with money. It's like, no, we all have different strengths. So what is your strength? It could be spending a lot of money, right? So yeah. So yeah, I mean that so far that's how I've been using it, and it's been very, very good. And I feel like just helping people feel engaged apart from just watching the content.
I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad that it's connected up to the things that you're helping people with in general. It's always cool when I hear somebody talking about how the quiz is a continuation of the pain points that they're already helping solve for their audience, for their
Hmm.
customers. I'm curious, kind of diving into your channel, your content a little bit more, where the inspiration came from to start answering these financial pain points through video format specifically.
Yeah, so my professional background was I was in finance. I was a finance director for about 10 years for a large organization. So I was always had an interest, with finance, but then there's also a personal journey to it where um, I didn't really learn financial literacy early on. So uh, my family immigrated from South Korea when I was 9 years old. And then the typical immigrant story is my parents were blue collar workers. So then their narrative of American success was study hard, go to good college, and you're good. But they didn't really, they didn't know anything about investing or managing your expenses. So I came into the adult world with a template that uh, was not complete. That if I just got a good job, I'm good. But I didn't know how to take that earning and then convert it into wealth. So, I made all the typical mistakes that, somebody with very bad financial literacy would make. I would, I bought an expensive car. I spend to show success rather than actually saving money and investing to be successful. And then I went to a business school so that I could learn more about finance, but I came out with 6 figures in student debt because I didn't understand, the danger of student debt. No one ever told me. And that's not an excuse, but it's something that I just didn't know. So I made all these personal mistakes, and then it wasn't until uh, like I got married and uh, in my early 30s, that's when I started learning more about personal finance through self-education, and then started to kind of undo all of these mistakes, start tracking my finances, get out of debt, start investing, in a correct way. So this financial journey, I think, was something that really transformed my life. So I always, had this desire to share that information to a larger audience. The reason to your question regarding like video, so I started this YouTube channel. It's been about 4 years now. So, like I mentioned, I was in corporate finance for about 10 years. Um, great, it was a great professional pathway. And then uh, my ultimate desire when I came out of business school, kind of going down this pathway, was I wanted to be a CFO of kind of a large organization. But we all change. That's what I thought when I was 30. And then, when I was getting close to 40, I was like, I wonder, is that something I want to do? Is there an alternative to, in this new world that we live in, is there a different narrative that I can write for myself? So that's where I kind of stumbled into YouTube. I was always a YouTube consumer, but then, uh, never really like, uh, envisioned being like a content creator. I didn't even know what that meant. I just saw like video format as a really good way to share information. So yeah, like literally, I like 4 years ago, I bought my first camera. I never had a camera in my life before. Learned how to like learn what an ISO was, learn what an aperture was, learn how to set up a light, and then just like started recording videos and then just uploading on YouTube. And we live in a crazy time, right? Like, where you can upload your video from your living room and then be able to reach, thousands of people across the world. So it's a pretty amazing time. So I'm very thankful uh, that it's kind of gotten the reach that it has, and be able to help people's lives.
And that's so cool. I resonate with that like kind of journey where it's like it's such a new medium, it's a new thing,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that your intention was, oh, this is a good way to share this information. These days, it feels so often like people are chasing money or they want to start a company. So then they're like, oh, maybe I'll go do a YouTube channel. But your path into it was like, well, no, these things are actually really helpful. Is there anything that's surprised you about how this content journey has gone in terms of like, you go from not having a camera and then all of a sudden you're reaching at least millions, tens of millions of people now with your channel? Has anything like caught you off guard or been unexpected?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the first couple years, I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but it's um, I I think what's been really like, so I don't have any media background. Again, like I literally was a spreadsheet guy. That's all I did. Like, my job was to like create board decks for our board and then talk about future projections that gets neglected the week, right after the meeting, and no one looks at it until the next quarter. But so I think what's been very interesting is kind of like now being a YouTuber in a way, being at the kind of being at this immersed, being at the forefront of like this interesting kind of a shift in the media landscape. Like so again, like I thought it was interesting. I think it was like a interesting kind of a like a realization was like after I think it was about 2 years in, like I would be like walking through the airport and I had like someone recognize me, and then like I had no idea this person. They're like, "Hey, are you on YouTube? Or you're like Financial Tortoise?" I'm like, who are you? Why are you talking to me? And like this was, and I used to live in California, and I think my wife and I, we were in New York for something, and then like someone at like Central Park was like, "Hey, like, dude," and then I was like, "This is insane!" Like, I filmed this video in my living room by myself in the dark corner, and like people are finding value from this content because on YouTube, like you see the views, and then it could be like sometimes it's like 10,000, 50,000, and you're like, it doesn't really grasp in your mind that there's actually 50,000 real people watch your video. So then I think it's this permissionless kind of a medium with YouTube or a lot of social media, that you don't have to have permission from a media company anymore. You can reach directly to your audience. And then yeah, we're living in this kind of a new world where I think leveraging media, leveraging technology, like for yourself, like being able to leverage, like code for creating this business, and then be able to kind of redefine like like a lifestyle, that's kind of unimagined before. I'm actually talking to you from Bali, Indonesia right now. That's why my time zone is kind of weird. Yeah, so my family, we've been on the road for the past like year and a half. And like, we watched too many travel videos, and then my wife and I thought, while the kids are young, they're 9 and 12, they're like, we should do this epic like world travel trip while they're young, and then went through all of Europe and all of Asia. We kind of ended up here in Bali. But then, yeah, I mean, these kind of stuff was just unimaginable, 20 years ago. But then we're living in this crazy times where, like, with technology, with media, is able to kind of cut through all of those permissions, and you kind of define whatever the future could be. So, yeah, I mean, that's been like coming from a very corporate background. Like, I went to business school. I think you went to UCLA as well, right? Like I went to UCLA for business schools, like in that California, like that business school environment, and everything was set, right? Like either like from business school, like we either go into consulting, into banking, into marketing, into like corporate finance, and then that's your track for the rest of 20 years. And then it's been interesting, like to kind of reshift that narrative, and then be able to see that, oh, there's a whole new world out there where people are kind of redefining what creating value looks like, and then adding value looks like, and be able to make a living off.
I like your take on this because it's so objective. A lot of times I hear more of a subjective of like, oh, I was always called to this, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But I like your take on it. I'm curious in that context, what do you think about it now? Like the entrepreneurial path. I came right out of UCLA. We started this
Mm-hmm.
at UCLA. So
Oh
I
wow.
never went the corporate
Yeah,
route.
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
curious from your perspective, having done
Yeah.
both, what do you think about this side of the world?
I mean, I think in a way, I feel like there is this big divide that's happening that in a way, like, I guess if I think about like a lot of my peers or people who kind of follow that pathway, it's gonna, I don't know, in a kind of a more realistic way after having kind of experienced this side, like it's like inflation. It's like if you're not staying ahead of inflation, you're falling behind. And then I feel like this new kind of digital world, code world, because even if you look at even the stock market, the top 10 companies are all tech companies. And then, the GMs, the Ford, Procter and Gamble, they're all like, they're still profitable companies, but they're falling more and more behind because there's this new medium of creating value that is just accelerating so fast. So I feel like it's like a divide. If you're going to look at it between like analog way of doing things and digital way of doing things, the gap is getting just bigger and bigger. So then, like, I feel like, yeah, I when I think about even my son, like, I kind of question like how relevant is college going to be going forward, like with that, the if it doesn't change in its outcome of giving a degree so you can become a cog in a big machine, instead of like you have the permission to kind of like the world is your oyster and you can do whatever, and then there's all these different avenues to do it. So yeah, I mean, I feel like excited for the future, as well as I think for people who are not very good at adapting to change and being willing to change, it could be also um, quite detrimental. I think that's why the way I kind of look at it. After having experienced kind of this side, the kind of the freedom and the upward potential, and then the values that can be created apart from these traditional corporate structures. It just and I think it's moving faster and faster every year. It seems like, yeah. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's like a nuanced view of it, but also I agree with you. I think that obviously the top 10 stocks, all tech, and they're pulling away. I think
yeah.
you probably know this better than I, but there was some crazy stat of like the stock market would not have gone up that much in 2025
Mhm.
if it wasn't for the top 10 stocks, and they basically
Yeah.
pushed the whole thing up. In
Totally. Yeah.
terms
Yeah.
of that brought up another question in my mind, like in terms of wealth generation, which kind of it's like your YouTube channel and now also what we're talking about with entrepreneurship. Do you think that it's shifting towards wealth generation is not going to be working at X company for 20 years and building generational, I guess, or just wealth that way, either generational
Yeah.
or regular? Do you think it's more likely now that in 10 years that's going to be creating content, or I don't know, creating whatever the AI app
Hmm.
thing is
Yeah.
that happens
Yeah.
in the future?
I think there is a pathway to build wealth still in a traditional way, as long as you are able to participate in the growth of where growth is happening. So it's not like, if you're a teacher or a nurse, that you are set to never build wealth. But I think the important thing is growth from a wealth perspective, or growth in value, is happening in a lot of these tech companies. And then for individuals to participate in that, you do need to invest into the stock market. So I think as long as, if I'm a teacher, and as long as I understand that I need to participate in the stock market by investing in the stock market and doing it in an optimal way by managing costs and diversifying as much as possible, I think there are means. But of course, you're uh, building wealth. But if you want to become ridiculously wealthy, then there's a limit to that. So I think that, to your point, Josh, it is correct. I feel like, and this is, I mean, it's not even my opinion. I mean, if you just look at the top, 10, billionaires, they're all, Elon Musk is, because of all his companies that are tech driven. Same with everybody else. They've all built their wealth, like TSMC, what do you call it? NVIDIA has, is this valuable company because of AI. If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be where we're at today. We're not talking about GM today. We're not talking about Procter and Gamble. We're not talking about manufacturing efficiency anymore. It's about new technology. So I think, yeah, the upside is there. But for regular people, I think, and a lot of the people that I interact with is, working professionals who are not looking to start, who are not looking for ridiculously amount of wealth. They're not trying to become a billionaire. They're just like, hey, I just want to have a comfortable retirement. I just want to know that I'm set. I think there's still a pathway for them to build wealth, but they will still need to recognize the broader trend of the economy, and at the same time have mechanisms to participate in that. Yeah, you can't put your money into a savings account and then expect to build wealth. You have to take risk.
Right. Yeah. You can participate from different places. It doesn't have to be you building the next Amazon or whatever it may
Exactly.
be.
Yeah.
You can participate that through investing. As you're talking, I was curious of like, for people that are thinking about switching over to entrepreneurship, since that is the path that you took.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Were you starting to create content while you're still working corporate? Did you give it a period of time to test it out? How did you do it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was kind of networking. I think that helped me to re-evaluate what was possible. So again, like I came like, so for a good 20 years, I came from a pretty like institutional, like I was always in an institution. So like after college, you were smarter, so you started a company. I joined the military, so I did ROTC. That's how I paid for college, and then I did. I was an active duty officer for 6 years, so that's very institutionalized. And then from there, I went to business school to work in corporate finance. So then, good 15 to 20 years of my life, I was always in an institution. And then because my narrative when I came into the working world was, you you watch movies of who's successful, the guys in the suit in this corporate board meeting, and like that, those are the ones that are making money. Like that's, the movies you see in the 90s, right? They're the ones that are riding in first class. They're the ones that have the big house. They have these big titles of vice president of something. So that was the template that was in my mind, that, okay, that's the pathway I need to go through. I need to work at a larger organization, manage more people. But then I think what helped me was with mediums like YouTube and podcasts, I hear these nits and bits about like, wait, so you have a software business, or wait, you make podcasts, and how are you making money? Like, it was hard to wrap my head around it. So I went to a few conferences, just kind of like, just as an attendee, just to understand like, what is this thing about? So like one of the first conferences I went to was called FinCon, and it was a kind of a conference focused on like content creators who are interested in making content about money. So there's like podcasters, TikTokers, YouTubers, stuff like that. So I went to one of these, and then I was amazed that, there were people making money off of YouTube. There were people making money off of podcasts. And then more and more I talked to them, I was like, oh, wow. So you get sponsorships. Oh, you sell your own products. Oh, you created your own software. So that kind of opened my eyes to, and then you're not a big operation. You're just like a 2-person operation. So then for me, it was always like, oh, you got to start a Google if you want to, you got to start a large company in order to like be successful. So that, I think, planted a seed in my head saying, okay, maybe there is a different alternative. Maybe I don't need to continue to push up the corporate ladder trying to get to that next VP level, senior VP level, and eventually become a CFO. And there's a funny story. Like I remember I was sitting at a board meeting with our CFO once, and like my team's job was to come up with the projections for the company. So during the board meetings, our CFO would present, and I would sit next to her, and just kind of like, she had questions. She would be like, oh, hey, what's going on with this number? What's going on? And I would answer for her. And I remember having an epiphany. I was like, wow, if I work really, really hard, in 10 years, I can move one seat over. And then I would talk about the same thing, and I would be pointing at my finance director and be like, "Hey, what's wrong with this number?" And I was like, like, is that, I mean, it's a good, and again, that template worked 20, 30 years ago. But then I was like, is there something different? And I think that's where like I saw other things and that opened up my eyes. So yeah, I think that was the shift that just being exposed helped me to just, it planted a seed of what else was possible. And then, yeah, when I started my YouTube channel, thankfully, like, because we've been following the money principles, my wife and I, we were at a pretty comfortable financial position, not built on entrepreneurship, but built on just, brute force saving, that we can take some risks in our lives. So then I decided to take some time off from work, didn't tell anybody, when I bought a camera, and just started recording in my living room. And then, hoping that, I had to kind of put in the reps to learn the process. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I think just learning about, um, just creating value through this content. I think that was it was a steep learning curve. I think just, again, the mechanics of like making a video, scripting a video, doing research with the video, uploading it, no one watches, you get 2 views, and then going through that process over and over again. But, once you put in the reps, you get better and better at it, and you get a better sense. And I think, yeah, I think we're, again, when I talked about earlier, like, we're living at a pretty amazing time where one person with a camera in his living room can reach, millions of people. It is unheard of, So I think right now is probably one of the, like, best times to be an entrepreneur, to start something, because the cost of the upside is unlimited, and the downside is, there's, like, if you haven't taken on any debt, there's not much downside. You learn new stuff, and then you roll it over for the next venture.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think today it's all like the video stuff. Back when we started 2013 at
Mm.
UCLA, it was Google, but it was the same
Yeah.
thing. You would write and write and write. You get 2 views on this blog post, 1 on this one, 5 on this one. How many videos in did you feel like you started to get traction?
Oh, it was definitely over 100, maybe like around 100 and yeah, so about 150. Like, traction wise, probably around 100, where you're starting to get a few thousand views, and then the moment you've kind of made it is when you start getting negative comments. So it's
Yeah.
not your friends and your family watching. And someone goes like, "I disagree," or "You suck. This is wrong." You're like, it's like a badge of honor. You're like, yes, someone is spent. Some stranger took the time to criticize my video. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, that means
yeah,
that somebody told me this. They're like, that means there was an emotional reaction, which means that your
right,
video worked. And I'm
right,
like,
right.
it doesn't feel good because we
Yeah,
get that all the time. I mean, oh my
mm,
gosh, in software, everybody wants to tell you what you're doing wrong. I'm sure
right,
it's the
right,
same with
right, yeah,
videos. They're like,
yeah.
this all over the place. But thanks for sharing that number. We were a similar number for Interact, and
Mm,
everybody, I don't know, maybe it's these days, maybe it was always this way. I feel like people are like, oh, I did 3 and it didn't take
yeah,
off.
yeah,
And you're just like, nah,
yeah,
that's not how it
yeah,
works.
yeah,
That's not
yeah,
how it works. Where do you source your ideas from? Like, is it community members, watchers asking? Are you doing
yeah,
like research?
yeah. It's all over. I think one of the surprising thing I realized after starting this journey was, I feel like I'm more of a writer than like a YouTuber. I spend a lot of time reading and writing. Like, I think I spend more time reading and writing than ever, because especially with the talking head video, once you have a script, and then I have an editor, and that they know how to edit the way I want it. Like, once I record, it's pretty much automatic. But then all the work really comes in, like, pre-production. Even I think it's probably like same with like movies. If they have a good script, like, unless you're a really bad director, like, that messes it up. Like, it could be a pretty good movie. So I spend a lot of time reading like a lot of personal finance books, a lot of other types of books. Not so much actually, like, as surprised as uh, some people would say, like try to source your ideas from other YouTube videos. I actually personally don't look at a lot of other YouTube videos. I actually look at, um, I try to find content that haven't been made into a video, because there's so much out there, and I think especially within the personal finance investing world, it's not like I know more than anybody else. There's people with PhDs in economics that have created, much better content around this. It's just they're 80 years old, so they don't have the time, the resource, or the desire to convert this into video. So I read a lot of like research-based books and try to figure out, okay, how do I simplify this or synthesize this and convert it into a 10-15 minute video that's digestible for a regular person. So yeah, that's where I think I sourced a lot of my ideas. I think from the YouTube video comments, I also get some ideas. I have a private membership community that I manage where I help people directly with their finances. So a lot of those coaching calls, I also get a lot of ideas because it helps me to identify the specific pain points.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I resonate so much with that. It's like
Yeah,
reading
yeah,
books and talking long form with customers,
yeah,
or
yeah,
that's it. Everything else just feels like a regurgitation of the
yeah,
other 10 videos that are on the same topic.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing all this with us. I feel like I got
yeah,
a master class in starting a business in the 2020s. Um, where can people check out the Financial Tortoise YouTube channel, your membership community, your quizzes, all that stuff?
yeah. So the YouTube channel is just financial Tae Kim dash Financial Tortoise. So I upload weekly videos about just building wealth slowly, just general personal finance, about investing. If you want to learn more about the community, just go to financialtortoise.com/community. If you want to see the quizzes, all the quizzes that I built with Interact Quiz, just go to financialtortoise.com/quiz, and then I list out all the different quizzes. Yeah, it's been a great journey, and I'm really enjoying, creating content, being able to, help people in their financial journey. I feel I'm a firm advocate that, I think financial literacy is a core life skill that, people need to master, and then once they can do it, it just opens up so many doors.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's a good thing to leave people with. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this. This was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
great episode. Appreciate it.
awesome. Thanks, Josh, for having me.